Hi, my name's Dan. Today I'm going to go over basic cake decorating. I'm going to start off with a quote from Duff Goldman, the star of Ace of Cakes. The great thing about cake is it doesn't feel like work. You forget about work. Kids, adults, they all get the same look in their eye when decorating cakes. That's magic right there. So first I'm going to start off with some baking tips. With the cake, you can do anything you want, store-bought or do your own. It doesn't really matter. I don't think there's a better one versus the other. With the icing, I do use the recipe from Wilton.com is my buttercream icing. I usually do two full recipes of it or a double recipe of it, and that's usually enough to do a single or a double layer cake. On my very, very first wedding cake that I did, my friend Mike was with me, and when I was baking the smaller layers, they always kept sticking to the pan. And I was getting a little frustrated, and he told me that he had a recipe to keep the cake from sticking from the pan. So you take equal amounts of vegetable oil, flour, and Crisco or shortening, and you whisk them all together in a bowl. And then you take a pastry brush and you'll paint that all the way around the cake pan on the sides and the cracks and everything. And I guarantee your cakes will not stick. It's cheap, and you should have those ingredients in your cupboard at any time. So some do's and don'ts on the cake when you start icing a cake, the thing you don't want to do is ice it when the cake is hot. So you want to wait till the cake is completely cool. Here's some supplies that you're going to need before you get started. You're going to need a turntable or a Lazy Susan. You're going to need a cake board. And when you do a cake board, you want it a couple inches bigger than your cake. So this is an 8-inch cake, and this is a 12-inch board. The reason you want it bigger is because it gives you room, one, to hold it, and two, to do any kind of decorations you want onto it. If you get a cake board that is exactly the size of this, you won't be able to hold it or really decorate it. You're going to need a spatula or an icing spatula. You're going to need pastry bags. You're going to need decorating tips and what they call couplers. So you can buy all these supplies at Walmart or Hobby Lobby. It doesn't matter. And the good thing is once you buy them, you usually don't have to replace them very much. So the first thing you do on your board is you'll put a little bit of icing on it. And the reason we do this is that way the cake will not slip off the board. And what I do is I put the cake, if you're doing a single layer, do the top part of it down. That way you have a bigger area to decorate, and it's a lot smoother to decorate on. So when you start icing, this is what we call an icing tip. You can see it's flat on one side and then you have ridges on the other. You're going to start, and you're just going to press it up against here. And you kind of have to put a little bit of pressure on it. You know if you're not putting enough pressure on it, because the icing will literally fall off the side of the cake. And you just go around the whole side of the cake. And then you do the top. And you just do a big circle around it. Like that. And you put enough icing to cover the whole top of the cake. Like that. So when you're icing the cake, you just go around the side like this. And if you just put a little bit of pressure on it, you know you're going too thin if you start seeing the sides of the cake. So you just put it on the side and you just go all the way around, just like that. And then you come over to the top and you scrape on the top. So you just go across the top. And until it's smooth. You just kind of go from one side to the other. And then you're going to go down the side one more time. And the good thing about cakes is if you mess up or if it doesn't turn out the way you want, it's just icing. You can scrape it off and start all over again. It's kind of like an easy erase button. So if it's not going the way you want it to, you can just scrape off and start again. That's the one good thing about icing in cakes. So you're going to do it till it's relatively smooth, and there you go. You have a iced cake. So next we're going to do a border. So this is a border. It looks like a star almost. And I'm going to show you how to do just a basic shell border is what you call it. So you want to only do about half a bag of icing. You're going to use one hand to squeeze and one hand to guide. And what you're going to do is you're just going to put it up against the edge of the cake, and you're going to squeeze and let go and come out a little bit. So you're just repeating the same thing, just squeeze and let go, squeeze and let go. And this is what they call a basic shell border. There's a lot of different types. You can do any color you want, you can do the style you want. You don't always have to do it on the cake. You can practice it on a sheet of wax paper or on an empty cake board until you get kind of the style you like or until you get comfortable with it. And there you go. That's just your basic shell border. So on the top, we're going to do what's called an E shell. So all you're doing is writing a repeating cursive E on there. So I'm using one hand to squeeze and one hand to guide. And so you're just going to do a cursive E. You put a little bit of space in between it. When you stop, you just start where you left off. And the way I'm doing this, I'm just continually squeezing the bag. Just like that. So that's what they call an E shell. So just do like that. Next, we're just going to do a simple balloon. And I don't have any tip on this bag. It just has what's called a coupler inside of it. And all you do for a balloon is you just squeeze and pull down. Just squeeze and pull down. And there you go. Those are simple balloons. Next, we're going to do writing. So when you're writing, you just want to be mindful of how much space you have on top of the cake. And this is what's called a writing tip. So you can see it's very small and round. So when you're writing, you want to remember to have a steady squeeze on it. You have same thing, use one hand to squeeze, one hand to guide. So when you're writing, you have to steadily squeeze it and just write like you normally would. If you don't squeeze hard enough, the letters are going to break apart. If you squeeze too hard, it's going to squiggle almost like a pigtail. I'm going to show you that here in a second. So I'm just going to write happy birthday. And it's just one nice motion. So what I mean when they say if you squeeze it too hard, and we'll do little strings on the balloons, is something like that. So as you can see, it's pretty simple to decorate a cake. You can practice a lot. Like I said, you can practice on a wax sheet of paper. You can practice on a cake board until you feel comfortable doing it on a cake. And hopefully one day you can get some cakes with enough practice that look like this. So I'm going to end with a quote from Buddy Valastro. He was one of the star of Cake Boss. Cakes are special. Every birthday, every celebration ends with something sweet, a cake, and people remember. It's all about the memories. So imagine your daughter's birthday or son's birthday is coming up, and you take the time and you bake them a cake, you make the icing and you decorate it. It doesn't matter how beautiful the cake looks or how silly the cake looks. They're going to remember the cake that you made for them. So cakes are memories. So I appreciate you watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.